We'll begin with the Daily Trust newspaper right here. It would do you well to pick a copy today. The lead story here, it says, Tribunal to lawyers, parties, we must consider Nigeria's peace. It has the writer that says, here's Atiku's petition today, Obi tomorrow. AA's case dismissed, Lalong barred from representing Tinubu. You'd have above the lead story, gunmen invade Kagaruku Emir's house, about 7 grandchildren, 6 others. You have ahead of commissioning, Dangote says Nigeria to gain $20 billion from refinery on page 20. Media Trust appoints Mudashir as Deputy General Editor. Congratulations to Mudashir. You have also below the lead story, reps reject NCC's 700 billion naira request to close coverage gap. And that's on page 5. Jaiz Bank posts 9.9 billion naira earnings in first quarter on page 19. Osun governorship. Supreme Court decides Adeleke Oyetola's fate today. And that's on page 11. You have also below the pictorial, APC NWC ratifies Tinubu's candidate Akpabio for Senate, Abbas for Speaker. And that's on page 10. These are the main stories on the cover page.
All right, now let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. It has a lead story that says, discontent as aspirants minority caucus reject Akpabio Abbas. Just above that lead headline, we have the pictures of the people that the APC has zeroed in on for the leadership of the National Assembly. And above that, we have reconciliation not mentioned during Obi's visit, Soyinka clarifies. We also have tight security as Supreme Court rules on Adeleke Oyetola's case today. And also, still on the Guardian for today, we have technicalities. Time wasting won't be entertained. PEPC wants Atiku, Obi, Tinubu's lawyers. These are the major stories on the Guardian for today.
Right. Now, the next paper, the Vanguard newspaper, it leads with the presidential election petitions hearing as well. It says, avoid technicalities. Delays, court warns parties, lawyers. It has the riders. Sitting starts amid tight security. AA withdraws petition against Tinubu. INEC. You can't stand in for Tinubu. Court tells Governor Lalong. Adjourns hearing on Obi's petition till tomorrow. Meet the 5 jurists that will determine Tinubu, Atiku, Obi's fates. So you would find the details there on the front page of, that's on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper, as well as page 32 rather. Also you have above the masthead now, CBN bans foreign banks, rep office from banking business. Prospective bride, 7 others die in Zamfara boat mishap yet again. We've had these experiences several times before now. AFAM, FG presents discharge certificate to Transcorp Power Limited. Reconciliation not discussed during Obi's visits, says Soyinka. Well, you find the details on page 10. I'm wondering reconciliation over what? Terrorist attack Kaduna Church, abduct 40 worshippers. Sudan crisis, 129 more evacuees arrive Abuja. Religious politics will destroy Nigeria, Governor Sule warns. Picketing, Labour tackles FAN, MD over comments. 10th NAS, APC zones Senate presidency to South-South. Northwest gets speaker slot. You also have cancer, Nigeria lagging in brachytherapy treatment, according to experts. These are the main stories on the cover page of the Vanguard today.
Over now to the Nation newspaper, which leads with the story from on the leadership of the NAS. It says, APC picks Akpabio Abbas as Senate President and Speaker. And just beneath the masthead, we have Presidential Tribunal strikes out AA suit. And above the masthead, we have I Don't Know Obedience, says Shoyinka. We also have 40 worshippers abducted during church service. 134 kidnapped victims from FCT councils rescued in Kogi. These are the major stories on the Nation newspaper for today.
And on the Punch newspaper, the lead story, again, talking about the election tribunal, says Tinubu, Atiku, Obi's legal battle commences. PDP, APM's petition, pre-hearings hold today. LP, Obi's case Wednesday. Tribunal warns lawyers, says those who deserve justice will get it. National Assembly, APC picks Akpabio, Abbas. High duty, vehicle imports crash by 128%. Obi's visit not about reconciliation, says Shoyinka. You have also Oshibajo presents discharge certificate to Transcorp Power. Adeleke Oyetola hopeful as Supreme Court delivers judgment today. Well, that trial, or I would say that case seemed to have been swallowed by the presidential election tribunal. No one seemed to be talking about the Osun State case anymore. Well, we'll see how that transpires. You also have bandits kidnap 40 Kaduna worshippers, 9 MS children. FG plans rescue of Nigerian domestic workers in Iraq. So these are the main stories on the Punch cover page today. Well, that's the last paper that we are looking at. Let's get more perspectives to that now. We have Dr. Theophilus Abba, Director of Programs, Daily Trust Foundation, with us in the studio for more perspectives on some of the stories. Thank you again, Doctor, for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Thank you very much.
It appears that on the second day of the presidential election tribunal, all the papers are awash by, some of the highlights of what happened yesterday at the tribunal. So it's a big story, with a lot of parties and a lot of supporters of political parties said, well, we hope that the courts will do the right thing. And I'm wondering, what will the right thing be in this instance? Everyone is talking about that right thing. Are we going to accept the right thing eventually when it's done?
Well, when you talk about the judiciary going to court, it's about evidence. If you said you won an election, you must provide evidence. And if you said INEC did not do its job, you must provide evidence. And INEC will be asked to defend what it has done. But the fact is this, that there's so much suspense. And this is the height of what I'll call the 2023 elections. After people have voted, INEC declared results, the next thing is those who are aggrieved now have to go to court. The judiciary is the last bus stop. Whatever the judiciary says is what we call the final outcome of the election. And we also know that the judges are on trial as well, because if they do things that are not really transparent, if they do things that are not really clear to Nigerians, then people say, well, you sat on this panel and you took so and so decision. And I think the PDP and Atiku have insisted that, I don't know whether the panel will agree, the judges will agree to it, that this election petition issue should be broadcast live, so that Nigerians will see how decisions are being taken, by the judges. You see, the fact is that the tribunal made a statement yesterday that you don't want to dwell on technicalities, and I just hope that saying they don't want to dwell on technicalities means they will gloss over some things, because issues that will come up, one of them is whether INEC policies or procedures or conducting elections translates into a law. When you say, for instance, the major one is you are going to transmit election results via IREF. Is this the kind of thing that we can say we can hold you by. Because if you say you are going to do it and you didn't do it, what are the implications? I hope that will not be considered as technicalities. Then there are other issues that have come up, over voting. How can people overvote when you are using, what do you call it? Beavers. You understand? These issues will come up. And then
the Abuja 25%.
Abuja 25%. Actually, I mean, something that I feel that it is issue of semantics. That is, those who crafted the law did not know the meaning of and how it implicates FCT. Because if I were part of them, I would have used a different, I would use what do you call it, a preposition instead of and. Because when you use coordinating conjunction and, you are implicating something, which I don't think I should talk about here, so that nobody will say I'm deciding, and I mean the case for this. But my worry is that, you see, unless there is a kind of forensic investigation, or unless there is forensic evidence being allowed, then we cannot get the kind of justice that we're talking about.
All right, Dr. Alba, you know, at this point, the matter is in court, hearing has started, and we'll just have to wait to get what will come out of the court. But what I want to ask you is, 8 years ago, there was no court because the president at that time didn't go to court. Yes. But before then, at that time, you were a reporter and editor. Did the court at that time, the tribunal, did it generate this kind of interest that it's having at this point?
Well, that was 2011. The 2011 election, this kind of interest was not so generated because apparently there was a glaring winner. There was a glaring winner. So even though Buhari went to court, you know, it didn't really generate so much interest. You know, but the major issue is this. You know, there's a phrase in the Electoral Act which has always decided whether a candidate is declared a winner at the tribunal or not. We call it substantial evidence. And I remember Buhari complained that he brought evidence from some local governments or some states to show that there was fraud. But the judges say it was not substantial. When Atiku brought evidence after an election, that look, there were frauds here and there, the court still said there was no substantial evidence. And this word substantial evidence, or this phrase substantial evidence, you know, is very vague. To me, it's very vague. Because if you say, okay, if you bring evidence from 20 states out of 36 states, then it is substantial. If you say, okay, bring evidence from 14 states out of 36 states, then it's substantial, then we will not know. So because the judges, if I were to advise those who framed the law, you know, there's need for us to have a peg. What makes a particular evidence substantial, and what makes it less substantial? Because unless we have clear understanding of what we call substantial evidence, it will still be difficult for people to accept even the verdict of the Supreme Court, even though they don't know what there's nothing they can do about it. They will say, well, I brought so evidence from so number of states that there was fraud, but the judges still said it was not substantial. So what exactly substantial evidence? You see, Buhari complained about it. You know, Atiku also complained. I think in 2007, Buhari complained about it. Atiku also complained about it when he went to court against is it Buhari or I think Atiku went to court in 2015.
2015
after the 2015 election. Jonathan did not go to. Atiku did not contest.
No, he didn't contest because he wasn't a candidate of the party at the time.
But there was an election that Atiku went to court to contest, and they said, look, you don't have substantial evidence. So it will be good for the judges or those who frame the law to tell us what constitutes a substantial evidence. Because even if you brought evidence from many states, you know, because you are not the one, you don't know what it means. What substantial evidence, translates to. So the judges can still say the evidence, they are not substantial.
So do you think that perhaps maybe with the introduction of the beavers and the IRF this time around, it will take a different dimension, or the whole thing will take a different tilt. Maybe now.
I try to talk about forensic evidence. When you talk about forensic evidence, it has to be detailed. What was supposed to be and what happened. For instance, if you go to the IRF portal, because I've been on that portal to check, you see some results uploaded, cancelled. Some written in what was written in figure does not align with what was written in words. You understand? You see transposition. Now, if you want to look at it from the forensic perspective, the first thing is this: who owned the first handwriting, that entered the result? That is question number one. Then, who owns the second handwriting that entered that altered the result? That is number two. Then, why should the word be different from the figures? The number of votes that each party had, why should it be different from the one in the figures? Why should the vote from one state be uploaded on the portal of another? See, all these things.
Now, with all these details, how much time do we really have?
That's the issue. That is because because what we are looking at is who actually won this election. You understand? And unless you untie some of these things, unless you spread them out for people to see clearly, you cannot convince people that, look, a particular candidate did not win or a particular candidate won. We know that INEC is the one who should decide. But then, because INEC has raised the bar, you understand? You told us that, look, you are going to make this thing live. You raised the bar by yourself. And so if you raise the bar, you are going to be held by that standard. But I don't know if forensic evidence is required. Because
do you think that the live broadcast that is being advocated for by some of the stakeholders or parties involved in this will help in boosting public confidence on whatever comes out of the?
Yes, actually, if there were live broadcasts, I don't know whether the decision has been taken or whether it will never be taken. You see, at least people will say, okay, let's see how this tribunal comes up with this conclusion. Because people will see what are the arguments, what are the issues, what are the points, you understand? And Nigerians will actually want to know. I tell you that if you broadcast this live, Nigerians will be very happy. All of us will be glued to it. We want to see how that election was lost and won. Now, that doesn't mean that if at the end of the day, the person you supported is not the one that the tribunal, said won the election. That doesn't mean that it will alter anything. But it's good for us to know what actually happened.
For the sake of transparency.
For the sake of transparency. And, and the judges must be seen to be fair.
Also, since the elections, there have been lots of comments, in fact, sometimes even protests. And yesterday, the chairman warned the parties and their lawyers to desist from sending comments now that the trial has started. Do you think that at this point, that all of those comments that we're hearing shortly after the elections will stop? So that, we just focus on.
Well, I think most of the people making comments, most of them are bordering around accusations, hate speech, insults, trying to even decide for the judges, and those comments, they are not appropriate at this time, because when you go to court, you are talking about evidence. Everyone who goes to court must produce evidence. If you say somebody did something wrongly, it's not enough. You must provide documentary evidence. You must provide human evidence. You must maybe electronic evidence to say, yes, this is what that is why I say so. Now, at this time, Nigerians are, there is this tension. I don't want to use I don't know whether tension is the right word, but people are actually,
anxious.
They're anxious. That's right. People are anxious. They want to know what actually happened. They really want to know, especially because Tinubu has been declared winner. Atiku saying no, the election must be cancelled, and Peter Obi is saying I won the election. So want the people who are experts in law, those who know the nitty-gritty of it, who know how to weigh evidence, to tell us, who actually, won the election.
All right. Well, another story on the front burner is about the leadership tussle of the National Assembly now, the ongoing campaigns and building of consensus by political parties and all that. Yesterday we saw the APC took a decision on whom the party will be supporting in the leadership of the running for the leadership of the National Assembly. So what do you make of this, really, given the discontent and the kind of tension within the APC now? How much would this impact on the chances of the party?
Okay, my own position has been like this. I support zoning. I support zoning because if you leave everything to numbers, a certain part of the country or some parts of the country will not be represented in government. Some persons say, oh, this part of the country gave more votes to the winning political party, so it must get everything. And I say no, because you see, even if that part of the country gave more, you need inclusiveness when you talk about leadership. Where you have a country where only people from one section of the country are seen to be, leading, it doesn't give others a sense of belonging. You ask them to wait for the next election. Now, you see, the fact that a section of the country gave more votes does not mean that they must take everything. It shouldn't be a winner take all. That's not my position. But I know that if you have zoned a particular position to a geopolitical zone, my own thinking is that you allow the people from that geopolitical zone to decide. You understand? Yeah. You say, okay, it's good. We should get the Senate president from the South. Fine. Why don't we ask the people of the South? Give us somebody.
Wouldn't that create a problem?
But then you see, as long as you are the one who zoned and you are the one who decided, you now give room for people to begin to say, give room for rancor. But if they decide among them, say, okay, the South caucus, this is your slot, get us somebody. They will say, well, we are looked at from among ourselves, this is the kind of person we want. But now you say, okay, the party, the president-elect say, this is the person I want. They are not talking about just zoning it to a region. They are even naming names. And that's why you hear people say, we don't agree. But if you had carried them along, if you have said, okay, South, give us a Senate president. There are people from the South, who have won election, either under APC or under PDP or under what. They know their ranks. They know the requirements. You know those who meet this requirement among yourselves. You could say, okay, let's concede it to this person. Then we'll go to the party. This is the person we have picked. But then the president-elect will say, this is the person I want. The party will say, oh, this is the person we want.
Dr. Abba, as you know, at the moment, the APC has 59 senators elect, and then the other parties have 50. So if the APC leaves, what a lot of people are saying is that if the APC leaves anything to chance, anything can happen. That is what it means. Now, you're saying that they should zone it to a particular geopolitical zone and tell that zone to provide. What if that zone, what if they are unable to agree amongst themselves? As you know, even within the APC, even with the parties zeroing down on a particular person, we still have other people saying they want to contest. In the Senate, we still have the Abdulaziz Yari faction.
Ultimately, there will be an election. Ultimately, there must be an election. You understand? Because the fact that the president-elect says this is the person I want, and the party says this is the person we want, doesn't mean that there wouldn't be votes. It's not like they will just go to and say, okay, the party has said this person should be Senate president, this person should be deputy Senate. No, there will ultimately be, I think it was in 2015, yes.
Where we had the Senate president from the ruling party
there was
and
a kind of a
protest,
and people say, no, the person that the president-elect is talking about, we cannot, it was even Buhari.
But in 2015, there was no zoning, which is what some experts are saying the APC is trying to avoid at this point.
In 2015?
Yes, there was no zoning.
Okay, I wanted to, but I know that the president supported a candidate.
No, if you remember, in 2015, on the day of the inauguration, there was supposed to be a meeting with the president somewhere, yes. And then at the National Assembly, inauguration was ongoing, and then that was what led to the emergence of Bukola Saraki and Ike Ekweremadu as DSP.
But what I'm saying that the president and the party had their own candidates that they wanted, to be voted in as president, Senate president and deputy Senate president. I remember that clearly. So, but what I'm saying is that if you have zoned, why don't you allow, the zones to produce? Because if you allow them to produce the candidate the candidate that will go for the vote for the election, most likely they will rally around that candidate. They will get the buy-in of other leaders in other senators or other House of Reps members to support that candidate. But now I know there will still continue to be argument, rancor, and all this and all that. Ultimately, I hope it is not going to be like, Akpabio has to buy, some of his friends to be able to, because even in the PDP, you should have people who support Akpabio. I'm not saying that Akpabio is just, it's only APC that will support him, but people from other parties support him. But if it looks like an imposition, then it will lead to a lot of rancor.
All right.
That's my worry.
In the House of Representatives, we have a situation where the members-elect from the opposition parties, they have even constituted an 11-man committee to shop for candidates of their own and all of that. Do you see this going to be a serious threat to the APC?
Already, most of the members who are not APC, elected, they are at liberty, because they are going there as equal, so they can come together, form a kind of internal alliance to choose. It can be a threat to the APC, and that is why APC must be seen to be fair. APC must be seen to allow them to decide. Right. Because as long as it's seen as an imposition, there will be a major rebellion. Even if you are going to have your way, there will be resistance.
Okay. Well, in a few minutes, just before we round up, here's another interesting story on the Punch newspaper today that I feel our viewers might find interesting. Because of high duty on vehicles, we are seeing a reduction or a drop in the number of imported cars. So the report says vehicle imports crashed by 128%. That's comparing with 2021 first quarter and 2023. That's the drop. So from over 117 vehicles that were imported in the first quarter of 2021, you are now seeing just a little above 50,000 vehicles imported in the first quarter of 2023, and that's on the account of the high duty being paid by vehicle or dealers, if you may. So it looks like owning vehicle now is not going to be for everybody.
Well, if the high duty were a very good fiscal policy, it will help. When I say very good fiscal policy, means that maybe government is saying those who produce vehicles locally, should be protected. When you impose high duty, that's what you have in mind, that local production will be protected. But right now, I don't think there are several manufacturers of cars, But you see, the reason why Nigerians need cars is because we don't have good rail system, we don't have tram, we don't have metro. Even the luxury bus system is not effective. If we had all those, many Nigerians would not need cars. But then this high duty has two implications. One of them is the cost of getting vehicles. The second thing is that the income, the federal government income, what Nigerian customs will earn, from these duties will drop. Because if Nigerians are not importing vehicles, then the duty that accrues to the customs, from those who import or from vehicles that are imported will no longer be there. So it's going to affect even the internal revenue. But then what still, it will affect the cost of getting a car. I was discussing somebody, a car that he bought about 10 years ago for about 2 million. Today it's about 8-9 million. And he said, look, instead of me to think of buying a new car.
Is that the same car?
The same car. He's going for about 8 or 9 million. He said, instead of me to think of buying a new car, let me see whatever is going bad in this vehicle, let me put it together, let me repair. But the important thing is this: we need to manufacture vehicles in Nigeria, or we need to insist that those who manufacture the vehicles that we will use should set up plants in Nigeria. Now it will bring down the cost, it will create employment. I think that is my own take of what is happening in that
the whole
sector.
fuel subsidy saga. I'm also hearing stories about people trying to dispose their vehicles that they consider consume more fuel, so that they can go for vehicles that
course, it makes economic sense. Because
so a lot of changes we are seeing.
Because if you are using a V6 vehicle, maybe a Jeep, that has V6 engine, 6 plug, you know, it means that you have to rethink.
All right.
You must rethink because the fuel consumption is very, very high.
All right, well, that's the most we can take. Thank you so much, Dr. Theophilus Abba,
Thank you.
Director of Programs, Daily Trust Foundation, for joining us on Daybreak.